It's usually because I've done it, summer school and Bennett Marquette like 3 years in a row. Yeah. Must be new.
He is an active general. Got a little slack. Ma'am, no ma'am, I have no comment. He's an old friend. That'll get you some leeway, but he is an active general.
Oh, sure. Throw that at me, Matt.
Stay?
Are you wanting the 3 weeks?
You've been gone?
Time. Waiting for everybody. Just look at my cookie. All right, let's call the meeting to order, please. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag. All right, thank you and welcome. First order of business is the approval of tonight's agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
Have any discussion on that motion? All right, the motion is to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That carries. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the Board of Agenda meeting minutes from November 16th.
Moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion of those minutes? The motion is to approve those minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The next, that carries. Thank you. We have one abstention. The next one is patron comments, and we do have one, so I need to read through this. It says that every regularly scheduled board meeting, citizens may make a statement or address the board concerning issues pertaining to the Rockwood School District. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. To address the board, complete a blue patron comment card prior to the start of the board meeting and give it to a communications department staff member. Citizens will be called to the lectern by the board president to make comments. The board values and appreciates you taking the time to provide your comments. In general, practice of the board is not to respond to your comments at this time except to ask for clarification if needed. If appropriate, the district will provide a written response in a reasonable period of time. Please note that matters related to the employee negotiations, legal issues, real estate, personnel, and student matters are reserved for the board during closed session. If a number of people are speaking on the same issue, we ask that you please try not to simply repeat the same items from the previous speaker. All right, thankfully I got that out of the way. We do have one comment card tonight, and that is from General Bill Blaylock. Will, thank you. Sure. You get picked up on the microphone so the folks at home can hear you.
No. I know the drill. Sit. Good evening, President, members of the board, Dr. Knost. I'm here tonight to formally present an award to Rockwood. It's from the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. It's called the Pro Patria Award. And the Pro Patria Award is an award that recognizes companies, organizations that provide support to the National Guard and the Army and the Reserve, not just the Army Reserve, reserves in general. And this is a big deal because this award is only awarded to 3 organizations in the state of Missouri every year. So Rockwood received this award, not just because I submitted Rockwood, but other members of Rockwood have submitted as well over the years, and it builds up. So it's a build-up point system. But the award states, ESGR awards the Pro Patria to Rockwood School District, presented on behalf of the men and women of America's Reserve Forces for outstanding service to the national defense through continuing support of the National Guard and Reserve. And it's a testament to the leadership in Rockwood and what they've done to help support those of us who serve. And I know in talking with Dr. Knost, he made a comment that it just seems like something we should do. Well, I can tell you all businesses and organizations don't do this. Rockwood, for me, I've been in 32 years now in the National Guard, and has provided incredible support for me. There were times when I was in the classroom and got called on the state emergency duty on short notice. Dr. Skatizzi was my principal, and he jumped in, got me substitute quickly, as in I got a call at like 10:30 at night, and the sub met me at 5-something in the morning to do the handoff, and so I could go to help support floods. I did deploy for a year, and Rockwood was incredibly supportive of that. And there are many times Dr. Knost dealt with me when I was in brigade command and when I moved into division, assistant division commander, where he provided incredible support because there were times I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be gone again. And last year I was gone a lot, which is ultimately why I had to retire, because there was just no way I could continue to provide the support that I wanted to provide to Rockwood. So this is a testament to Rockwood, and I'm awarding it to you all now.
And just a few comments. We had a prior ceremony that we went to in Jeff City that Will and I attended, and you know, you go to something like that and you think, okay, it's going to be another nice little gathering where, you know, where they say some nice things, but it really was a powerful night because for a couple of reasons. First of all, you see how great Will looks in his uniform, but in you know, to us, he's one of us. He's, you know, which is just, Will's a humble guy and just a great colleague, but you know, I'm sitting next to him in his room, and all these other people in uniform are, I mean, kowtowing to him like, you know, like you can't believe, because it just was a very cool thing to see that respect. But the other thing that was so neat was that here are all these heroes in the room, you know, and I was able to speak to them, which was really fun. And I said the things that Will just kind of stated, that, you know, it just seems like the right thing to do. But here in this room of all these heroes in uniform, some not in uniform, some, you know, retired even from their role in the service, and treating me as the representative of the Rockwood School is like a hero. I mean, you know, just an unbelievable round of applause when we got it. And it just was a very cool thing. And I think that's when I really realized that this is a pretty big deal, you know, because they definitely make a big deal out of it. So, and because of that, the one thing you didn't mention, Will, is that we were in the running for the national which we didn't get that, but just the fact that we were in the running for it was a pretty cool thing. So, yeah, we appreciate the nomination. So,
Need to get a picture with Dr. Knost. Thank you.
What do you want us?
yeah.
Yeah, don't get me in the back.
You and Randy. No.
Thank you, good to see you. Bye.
Well, again, thank you for all of your years at Rockwood and your service to our country. Both are heartfelt appreciated. Thank you.
If you'd like to sit down over there,
Yes.
Right.
just like old times, just sit next. Yeah.
All right, the next item is the superintendent and board comments, and I'll turn that over to our superintendent, Dr. Eric Knost.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Got some fun comments to share tonight. Today we had a group of about a dozen Monsanto employees that visited all of our 6 Rockwood middle schools this morning, and they were judging the school's contest entries for what was called the Monsanto Canned Food Drive Design Challenge. And at just one of those schools, students collected more than 1,500 cans of donated food. And the donations are going to benefit the Rockwood Got Your Backpack program, which, as you probably know, currently serves families of about 128, along with Circle of Concern. You have to stop and think. You think, wait a minute, Monsanto Canned Food Drive, what's the big deal? This was a very, very cool lesson in engineering, and basically a STEM activity. And Monsanto has been here throughout the process. There was a team from Monsanto working with each school as their design, and they did computer design of the model they put together, and obviously there's a lot of math involved, you know, science, technology, engineering, math, all those good things. And they basically designed something with all of their canned food, and it was very clever. All of them were very clever. Selvage ended up winning first place. They had somewhat of a patriotic rendition of the American flag, put together again with some real precision. And Crestview was second place, and they made a John Deere tractor, and in a clever way used also cans to make corn stalks and the row vegetables. It was very clever. And in third place, it did end up being, it was Wildwood, yes. Yeah, it was Bob the Builder. Yeah, so they were all really cool. But it was a neat idea. The kids really engaged, and it's always fun to partner with companies like Monsanto. So it was good for the kids. And Rockwood students are joining schools across the world to celebrate the Hour of Code during Computer Science Education Week, December 4th through 8th. Blevins Elementary technology assistant Tracy Keyser says that getting students exposed to coding at a younger age gets them more excited about it. Hopefully by the time they hit middle or high school, they'll be taking computer science classes. That's one of those examples that, as most of you know, I stay pretty involved on the state level in you know, what's going on with public education. And when people suggest that our schools are accepting the status quo, it just drives me crazy, because this is not the status quo. The stuff going on in our schools is not the status quo. It's not what we saw when we were growing up. And the fact that kids this young are involved in coding. You can go into the early childhood, any one of our early childhood classrooms with Jane, and she'll take you and share with you, you know, kids that are even doing coding exercises. And they may not realize that they're doing coding exercises, but that's what they're doing. So it's a very neat thing, and it's just kudos to all of our curricular experts and the teachers that are involved in these things. We also found out, I think it was last week, that 2 Rockwood administrators have been recognized by the St. Louis Suburban Elementary Principals Association. Fairway Principal, Dr. Lorinda Cry, received the Exemplary New Principal Award, and Stanton Assistant Principal Hector Ramirez received the Outstanding Assistant Principal Award. Both were honored for their accomplishments Monday, November 27th, when fellow Rockwood staff members surprised them on Facebook Live, thanks to Alex, with congratulatory balloons, hugs, and high fives. It was a pretty cool thing. And quite a few Rockwood administrators go down to the Cambridge Innovation Center, the CIC, the Cortex, otherwise on Thursday nights. It's called Venture Cafe. But they toured the CIC. The general manager and Rockwood parent Kim Plank, kind of describing it, referred to it in its simplest form. She said it's the St. Louis Incubator is a hotel for entrepreneurs and their service providers. It's a very innovative place, innovative space to think, to talk, to collaborate, and some of the most active entrepreneurs in the area are down there. And we actually have a plan through our innovative think tank to kind of grow a similar process, maybe right here in Rockwood, that just focuses solely on innovation and education. And we really think that the same level of business support would be interested. And so it's not something we can flip a switch and make happen overnight, but our attendance there, the group that went on that night, I was able to attend that night, but the attendance there is to try to build up the interest. We're back down there in January, and we're actually going to have a panel discussion that I'm going to be involved in, and it should be a neat thing. So we'll keep you posted. And speaking of innovation, Babbler is our first of Rockwood's 19 elementary schools to open one of the new innovation rooms provided for by district voters in the 2017 bond issue. The converted spaces in Rockwood's elementary schools will become innovation destinations. We have 4 more, Chesterfield, Ridge Meadows, Werther, and Westridge, scheduled to be complete by the end of December. And then in February, we will continue converting spaces in the remaining schools. Again, not the status quo. Innovative spaces in our elementary schools, and we are more than willing to show those rooms off and invite people in, including our state reps, including our governor, and I will definitely continue to try to get folks in to see what we're doing that is not the status quo. Marquette High School students practice language arts and quick thinking in their annual pun competition. Students compete in front of a live audience made up of 600 of their fellow students. They match wits, developing jokes relating to the news of the day, email messages, and photos. And they do it on the fly. It's all their quick wit that makes it a lot of fun and a very, very cool thing. We have that video to watch, correct?
Welcome to the 2017-18 Marquette Pun Competition. Mr. Severy, it's yours.
It's our 9th annual Marquette Pun Competition. We think it's the longest and only high school impromptu pun competition in the world.
The big football game had to be one of the most watched events ever.
I guess I'm kicking off here.
You need to get a super bowl of popcorn.
This must have been one of those bowl games. My favorite football games, those bowl games. The Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, you name it. I've always been fond of these. I'd call them incredible.
It's really a language arts competition, I think, in that, kids have to manipulate the language to be successful with this. You gotta think fast, you gotta be witty.
Let's get personal on a moment here, folks. I don't think the timing is quite right for these spring jokes. There's no way they're relevant in the winter, and the quality surely falls in the autumn.
I was
it's important to let kids get involved in what they like, explore what they like. Because if they don't explore and have some interest now, they're not going to have anyone there in the whole. So it's important to find out what you like. If you don't like, that's important for career exploration.
I saw one of the players trying a new passing technique. I think it was pretty widely received.
Great stuff. Nothing better than seeing kids learning and enjoying it and smiling, and glad to be there. I'm quite confident that our attendance was up for that event. And that's all I have.
You're going to pass that off as education. Sorry. Moving around. Any other board comments? I was sitting there the whole time wondering how it was.
I'd give it to you.
Any other comments tonight? All right. Moving on with the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
Moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on those items?
One, public gifts.
There we do.
Public gifts to schools. And I wish I could read it. No. Dennis and Jenny Holzer. I had a copy somewhere. Oh, the anonymous one. $20,000. Support the Got Your Back PAC program. We get a lot of donations. We get anonymous donations every once in a while, but $20,000 donation, that's remarkable. The other one is the $1,000 donation to be used for our orchestra department. Bass instrument donated for use by the orchestra department at Crestview Middle School. So that's $21,000 again, and 20 and 1,000. That's $21,000. Dan, would you give us a total at the end of the year, please? It's going to be more than last year, and last year was $354,000. So we're going to get more than that this year. Thanks.
Any other comments on the consent agenda items? The motion is to approve the consent agenda items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you. The agenda items for tonight, the first one is about the Rockwood Summer Academy, and I think Dr. Counts and Dave Cobb are going to join us. Need a motion to approve the Rockwood Summer Academy report and financial analysis for 2018, including a 1% salary increase for certified and support staff and additional costs to cover one extra contract day for Summer Academy related to full-day training prior to the start of the Summer Academy. We have a motion and a second. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. First, I want to start off before I get into the details about Summer Academy. Is last year when we started Summer Academy, we were challenged by providing transportation to our summer school students, and I will tell you it's a great honor to work with everybody in Rockwood, with our finance department, transportation department, all of our principals, Dr. Knost, Dr. Counts. We really pulled it off, and it was amazing to see our Rockwood buses rolling in the summer, and because of that, we had more kids, we had more attendance, and more kids were able to come to benefit from the things we offer. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it was a tremendous thing that we were able to do. So for our Summer Academy, last year we had 4 sites at the elementary school as typical, 2 for the middle school, and 2 for the high school. I'll tell you that we had Rockwood South for both the middle school and the high school, and again, you'll see later on in the slides that they chose to do that again because it's very convenient. This slide here just talks about the cost of our 4-week program. You'll see in total that it was about $605,000. The one thing I will note on that, the reason why it was just a little bit more is the supplies for elementary school at the $57,000 mark, close to $58,000. We spent about $50,000 in supplies with our elementary math program to help our students over the summer have supplies needed to continue learning as they would throughout the year. So that was a big jump from the previous summer. And this slide here just totals our revenue over expenditures, which you'll see a total of $113,122 from last year.
So I'm just going to quickly show you the slide on attendance. We always like to report this out just to show that we really do have excellent attendance in our summer school programs. Certainly you'll see at the high school, that's fantastic attendance, and that's our students are earning credit, and we have a pretty strict attendance guideline in summer school, but I think it's worthwhile. Obviously our students are coming, it's already a compacted academic time, so we've got to make the most of it. So attendance is really important. So we have good numbers in summer school, and we're always looking for creative ways to make sure we can get kids there. Obviously at the elementary school, it's a little bit different. I think we find we have more kids, maybe vacations and family obligations and things like that, where our high school kids are a little more independent, and if mom and dad go out of town, they probably still can make it to summer school. So we have some of that. Not that they're maybe happy about it, but they still make it there. So next we just wanted to show you where we had our fee-based programs last summer, and this is where we run our community ed programs, our early childhood programs, and our adventure club. And so those kind of run off and on almost all summer in a variety of capacities. And next we'll talk about what's coming up this summer.
Just a quick note on, for this coming summer, we will start June 4th and go through June 29th. So another 4 weeks. We'll have 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools again. The sites for this summer will be for the elementary schools. Because we're offering transportation, just a note on the 4 elementary schools, we wanted to make sure that we offered sites that were transportation ready, that really helped us maximize the potential to offer transportation to all children. So the sites are Blevins, Kellison, Chesterfield, Werther. We also work with facilities when we have sites that are under construction. Crestview, and then you'll see Rockwood South, both for middle school and high school. And then we have, I'm sorry, and that's my mistake, that's not Marquette, that's Lafayette. I just spelled it wrong. It's Lafayette is for,
they're so close.
It's for next summer. Exactly. So I do apologize for that mistake. The 2 high schools are Lafayette, and then we'll have it at Rockwood South again.
All right, moving on to, course offerings this summer. So we are excited, but K through 12, really, we've continued. Dave and I have worked closely with the principals that oversee these programs, along with all of our principals, to really look, and our curriculum department. Shelley couldn't be here tonight, but we've been working really collaboratively to find ways to expand our programs, to just continue to support the work we're doing in our academic school year. And you may remember last year we talked a little bit about this, that we're really trying to broaden the scope of our summer school focus. And unfortunately, we found that some of our summer school programming was much more traditional than what you would see in any of our classrooms throughout the school year. And we felt like that disconnect was not okay, that we really wanted to make sure that our summer programs were just as engaging, just as innovative, focusing on some of the great practices that we're doing throughout the school year should be the same thing that we're doing in summer school. So that's really been a K-12 focus, and I know Dave will talk a little bit more about that. But specifically at the high school, what that looks like is some more options for virtual online programming for students. We started with personal finance and health last summer. We'll continue that this summer. We're also exploring options for expanded credit recovery, and right now we have programs listed at offered at our 2 sites where students can earn credit that they maybe have failed in a regular session or haven't been able to complete. So we're going to look at expanding that through some more virtual options, because we're limited to the teaching staff that we have that can offer some of those courses. And sometimes those are very specific courses where students will need credit recovery. Maybe they need a half a credit of chemistry. Well, we don't offer a full course in the summer on that. So we're looking at some options for what those courses would be, and we'll work with our secondary administrators and teachers to determine what that credit recovery could look like. But we're just continuing to try and expand that catalog so that we have more relevant learning opportunities for students even in the summer. Middle school, we're continuing. This is really one of those highlighted areas where we felt like the delivery model in our middle schools was a little more traditional than we felt was the mission and vision of our work all year long. So we're really working closely. Shelley's department with all the curriculum facilitators are really working through this. I know Bob Deneau has been part of that too, of really looking at how we can approach summer learning different in the middle school. We have the great fortune of it's not a credit-bearing program, so we don't have to sit in reading for so many minutes, or we don't have to sit in math class for so many minutes, and there's just a lot of opportunities to embed curriculum and really combine some of that learning to make it more relevant and engaging for students. So that's the work that we're getting ready to embark upon for the summer.
And quickly at the elementary school, the history has been we've always had, it's been a remedial program for the first two, the A block and the B block, and we've really looked at how can we have students that are coming to our summer academy get a chance to have enrichment opportunities. And so we're looking at two possible things, one of them being those students that just qualify for one block, either A or B, have a chance to attend either the A, if they attend A for remedial, the B block, they can have an enrichment opportunity. The biggest one that we're looking at now is to have a C block, which would be in the afternoon. This would be a fee-based enrichment opportunity that would allow for students that come to both A and B to attend in the afternoon. And it would also, then we would take a look at those numbers and then allow for students that don't come to A, B, potentially have the opportunity to come to C. Right now we're at the final stages of taking a look at what that would look like and really narrowing down. I've met with finance, our assistant principals who run summer school, and just talking about the ins and outs. If we choose to go this route, it'll be an option for students that can come to summer academy and really get that STEM-like activity, those enrichment opportunities that we're doing throughout the year. So really excited about this, and I think it's going to be a great possibility that we go that route. And just real quick here, we're going to again offer the fee-based programs for the summer. The only really difference here is we'll have 7 elementary sites for Venture Club instead of 8. But again, these are our fee-based community ed, Adventure Club, and early childhood will be running all summer as well. And the last slide here just basically talks about our estimated budget for 2018. The total budget for 2018 is about $551,000. That's about $55,000 less than it was last year due to the materials that we, mostly due to the supplies and services that you'll see under the elementary department that in the previous year was about $55,000. So that's the estimated budget for 2018. Any questions?
Just to interject really quick, I know in your earlier slide I pointed that out, but just to reiterate that through the state, we are fully reimbursed for our costs for summer school and then some.
You said 55. That's roughly 10% lower than last year for the total program. Is that anticipating less students or more students, or don't know yet? You have about a 10% less budget projected this year than last, but that's due to materials, not an expected drop in enrollment.
No,
okay.
The budget itself is just 10% less because of the supplies, but okay. I would anticipate that we would probably increase enrollment by keeping budget the same. I would think our expenditures our revenue would go up.
Great.
You mentioned at the high school, was it virtual options or virtual something? I can't remember.
So this past summer we offered health and personal finance, right. And so students could take that kind of as a satellite online program. But then what we did is we paid a staff member who would supervise that course. And so they would have office hours, so to speak, and kids could come in then for additional support. Some kids didn't take advantage of that, didn't need it, so they worked solely on their own, and we opened the window and they had, this time frame to complete those courses. So we're going to continue to look at what other courses would be feasible to do that. Not every course is going to be relevant in that model.
Are those courses developed by our personnel, or are they a bought program?
Great question. So currently they are not. Currently, well, actually I take that back. Personal finance and health were developed by our Rockwood staff. The others that we have been accessing, even during the school year, we have students who will access online learning, and that's through our OdysseyWare contract. But Shelley, in collaboration with Glenn Hancock and some of the other curriculum folks, are looking at that learning management system, which then we would have a direct role in developing those courses, and they would directly align with our goals and standards, our teaching model, our instructional practices.
Good, that's great.
Springfield Public Schools, Springfield, Missouri Public Schools have created their own system for online learning, and I sent Shelley and Glenn to go see if they're offering that out to the rest of the state, and the idea is that they claim there's not the upcharges that you get on a profit-bearing system. Shelley and Glenn came back thinking that, was it Shelley and Glenn? Did I send Glenn? Yeah. They came back saying that it was really cool and they were really excited, but they didn't want to do theirs, they want to do ours. So the idea is to replicate the same thing.
I commend Shelley and Glenn, and again, there's many others in that curriculum, professional learning group that have been working on this for the last year or two, and it really has been, we knew when we purchased licenses through OdysseyWare, kind of a prepackaged curriculum set, and it's a good program, but even then we knew that was just going to be a bridge until we could really fully develop our own courses that align with our curriculum, step by step. So that's been the goal, and I think Shelley and Glenn, once they visited this Springfield site and learned about what theirs looked like, we already kind of envisioned that and are ready to put those things in place.
I think I read somewhere that Grandview School District down around Hillsboro has done something similar to that, and it's turned into quite a cash cow for them.
Yeah, and I know Springfield was kind of offering that same option, that you could pay per student to do that. But ours is going to be better, so we're going to develop it ourselves.
Are there questions or comments? All right, the motion is to approve the Rockwood Summer Academy report as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you very much. Next agenda item is our annual audit. I think Dan Steinbergy and, hope I say this, Brian Wirtz. Thank you. Good. A motion to accept our 2016-17 audit report, post-audit report, Secretary of the Board report as presented.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening. So tonight's presentation is the audit for the June 3rd school year. Auditors from the audit, and then we're on site for 2 weeks in October for final field work. To present the results of the audit, I'd like to turn it over to Brian to share that results.
Thank you. I don't know if we have the presentation on PowerPoint or not, but
PowerPoint in there.
Good. It's ticket. Yeah. So if you want to go to about the third page, it's kind of where I like to start. There is. So in the beginning, in this presentation, there are just certain requirements that we're required to discuss with you as a part of the auditing standards to conclude our audit. And so the first thing that happens in an audit is we issue our engagement letter, which engages the district for us to perform the audit. And in that, it talks about what your responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, what the scope of the engagement is going to be, and that sort of thing. And we sign it, and management and someone from the board sometimes signs it to engage us to do the audit. So that your responsibility when it comes to an audit and management's responsibility is to prepare the financial statements and determine that the basis of accounting used to prepare the financial statements is appropriate. People always kind of kid about accountants having two sets of books or companies having two sets of books. Well, you have financial statements in here that are on two different bases of accounting. You have your government-wide financial statements that are on the accrual basis of accounting, much like a for-profit entity. And then we also have the fund financial statements that are on the modified accrual basis of accounting, which don't include fixed assets and general obligation debt as assets and liabilities. Is the biggest difference between the two. And then there is a financial statement in there that reconciles the two. and the responsibility to prepare the financial statements is management. And the other thing is that it's the responsibility of management and you is to maintain an internal control structure to safeguard the district's assets. We perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, and the standards related to uniform guidance. The objective of the audit is to provide reasonable but not absolute assurance that there's a material misstatement in the financial statements that would go undetected. So we're required to plan our audit to reduce that to a minimal level. When we do an audit, we review the internal controls of the district, but we don't necessarily test the internal controls of the district. We do test internal controls as it relates to federal programs, but we do not give an opinion on the internal controls of the district. That's an outside the audit scope of an audit. The most significant internal control structures that we look like, or internal control cycles that we look at, are the revenue cycle, the expenditure cycle, the payroll cycle, and then the financial reporting cycle. How do you report on a monthly basis? Are the financial statements prepared in accordance with your standards on a monthly basis? So that's sort of the beginning of it. So looking at these financial statements, they're numbered to like 115, but there's like 150 pages in this thing, so it's a massive document. One thing I did want to point out, in the document there are 2 certificates of an excellence of financial reporting, one from the GFOA and the other one from ASBO, which we get every year, but you know, we do the district does a very good job of reporting and getting those comments down to minimal comments. Really not much substance to the comments that we do get, but we take them every year, try to improve, try to get those comments eliminated, which we do, but they always find something that's a little bit different. And with the changing standards, you know, sometimes when you're implementing a new GASB or something, you're at risk of not getting it fully correct, and they get a little nitpicky on it sometimes, but we did get that, so that's important to note. So the significant accounting policies used by the district to prepare the financial statements are Note 1. There were no transactions entered into by the district during the year that lacked authoritative guidance, which means there wasn't a GASB that would allow us to figure out how that transaction should be recorded. And there are no significant transactions recognized in a period different than when they occurred. There are estimates in these financial statements, so we're required to audit those estimates. We're required to make you aware that there are estimates in there, because when the actual results happen, they could be materially different than the estimate. But we are required to evaluate the factors and assumptions used by management to develop the estimates and make sure they're reasonable, which is what we did. The financial statements are neutral, consistent, and clear. I question that a little bit, because if you look at Note 7, which is the pension plan note, it's 11 pages long, and so I don't know if it's necessarily clear, but there's a lot of information in there about how it's related to the liability, or the district's proportionate liability to the retirement systems, and so there's a lot of information in there on how it's computed and assumptions used and that sort of thing. So that's a very significant note to these financial statements. We encounter no significant difficulties with management in performing our audit. The financials, when we're doing an audit, we're required to look at 3 types of adjustments, or 3 types of unreconciled differences. One would be just an immaterial amount, which we don't have to do anything with. The second would be a pass adjustment, which reaches over our immaterial amount, but an amount that's not material to the financial statements, that we'd have to make an adjustment, but we'd have to accumulate those in case we had 5 going the same way. It could be material, or just a material adjustment. So we're happy to report that we had none of those as a result of our audit. We had no disagreements with management. We issued at the end of our engagement, we do get a management representation letter, which is dated the same date as our opinion, which basically states that management gave us access to all the records, answered our questions to their best ability, did not keep any information from us, let us know of any subsequent events or commitments or contingent liabilities, that sort of thing. To our knowledge, there were no other consultations with any other accountants during the year. Any other audit findings? There were no matters of significant discussions that affected our retention and auditors. So we have discussions with management throughout the year, but those discussions are contingent on us being retained as auditors. Then the next one just talks about what we do with the schedule of federal expenditures. I'm not going to go over that because it's an immaterial amount, really. It's kind of boring. But so we'll go to the next page. And again, this is just talks about what we do with the required supplementary information. So the top section, all that information in the financial statements is unaudited. The next section is audited, and then the next section is again unaudited. So we just have to, we're required to disclose to you what we're doing in auditing in each one of those sections. So that within the financial statements explains what we're giving an opinion on and what we're not giving an opinion on. And just so you know that we did give an unmodified opinion. So there's, in this report, there's 4 opinions. There's the opinion on the financial statements, which is unmodified. There's an opinion on, or 2 opinions as it relates to federal programs. One, financial statement findings and compliance, which we had no instances of non-compliance or items to report or any internal control weaknesses to report to you. And then again, on the federal program spending, we give an opinion on that. If there were compliance issues, any significant deficiencies or internal control deficiencies, we had none to report to you on that. And on the state compliance, where we talk about management's assertions as it relates to budgets, attendance and transportation, those were all unmodified, so to speak, and with no instances of any non-compliance to report to you. And then I think the last slide, yeah, so I apologize, we did have this pass adjustment for the year, but it's got an extra 9 in it, or an extra 3 in it, I think. So it's 754,918 was a pass adjustment that we did have for the year. That was, it was just related to some bond issue expense, or I'm sorry, some facilities.
I am to make sure we understand that's a typo.
That's a typo.
The debit and credit do balance.
Yeah, we will reissue that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want my pun on that, I'll give it to you.
Sure.
Debit's got to equal your credits or your assets in jail.
There you go.
It's the only accounting joke I know.
Great.
So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
A question on the, you mentioned the disclosures being neutral, consistent, and clear, and you brought up actually note 7 pension plans. Is it safe to say that in terms of clarity, that's not a matter of concern, it's just a matter that it's a complex issue?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Every district that reports on full accrual is recording that liability.
Okay.
And that footnote. It's just a lot of information.
Okay, thank you.
The years have you been doing the audit for Rockwood?
Well, we did it a bunch of years, and then we were out or underbid or whatever you want to call it. But since we've been back, I think maybe 8. I'm just guessing. If it's been 8, it probably has been 10. If I think it's 8, it's been 10. Usually how my life works. But
You send this audit to the state auditor?
we do not send it to the state auditor.
Can you?
Well, I can tell you this. I don't know why I want to. We do have, as a part of the the standards that we're under, our reports do get desk reviews randomly, not necessarily every year. And we do have a couple a year that go through these desk reviews with comments, and we've never had any issues with those. We have external peer review that happens every 3 years. And they come in, and we're in a governmental accounting standards, quality control standard within the AICPA, which means we have to, when we get our peer review, they have to do a sub-peer review for all of our governmental clients, and we do that every year within the firm. So we have a committee that comes together and reviews each office's, just like it's an external peer review. We look at all audits and a sub-audit of all of our governmental clients to try and stay on top of things and make sure we're doing things right.
Okay.
So that in the abbreviation, it said that the Secretary of the Board report was actually abbreviated ASBR. Is that annual?
Annual Secretary Board Report.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, the motion on the table is to approve the audit report, post-audit report, and the Secretary of the Board report as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
It's with that correction, though.
That's with the correction on the ASBR thing, right? Oh, and the typo. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item is the, excuse me, a resolution authorizing and directing issuance of sale of delivery of general obligation refunding bonds. So let me read the motion. I'm going to need a motion to approve the resolution authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation refund bonds Series 2017 of the Rockwood R6 School District, St. Louis County, Missouri.
Move.
We have a motion and a second. Welcome.
Welcome. If you'll recall, at our last meeting in November, Michelle Bach and I came to you with the opportunity to refund our 2010 bonds that had a par amount of a little over $28.5 million. And at that time, we said there was a potential savings for doing the refunding of about $1.3 million. And time was of the essence because there's some federal tax law changes that will most likely come into play starting January 1. And we wanted to move this refunding up to get it done in December to make sure we realize that opportunity. In your packet, you may have seen, so after that, Michelle and the folks at Piper Jaffray, along with our bond counsel, Gilmore and Bell, started working on the paperwork and getting things together so that we could have a competitive sale, and that sale was scheduled actually for this morning. But kind of back up a step, you may have seen in your board packet to where we had two resolutions. One was to accept the sale today. The other was to adopt a parameters resolution to where we may delay the sale. And just to kind of give you some insight into that, shortly after we met with you at the end of November, the bond markets, for lack of a better word, became very volatile. And this $1.3 million in savings was going against us every day. And if I remember correctly, Michelle, that savings got down to maybe $800,000 or $900,000. So that's when we were talking about options and strategies, and we were constantly communicating about what we could do. And the parameters resolution was an option. Again, the bond sale was scheduled for this morning, but if the sale didn't go the way we wanted it, we wanted to utilize a parameters resolution to maybe take it to market a week or 10 days later, whatever that may be. Long story short, the market rebounded, came back to us. We had this competitive sale this morning. Michelle, Dan Sternberger, and I participated in the electronic bidding process. We had 5 very competitive bids, and the net effect is that the savings on the refunding as of today's bids is $1,320,000. So it made the complete circle. So, so we have good news for you tonight. So I think we're ready to recommend to accept the competitive bids that we received and go ahead and complete the process to close the sale on December 21st. Just to kind of recap it again, the interest rate on these new bonds, the net interest cost will be just below 1.8%. It also allows us to shave a year off the maturity. The original 2010 bonds were payable through 2024 through the refunding and saving of cost. We've taken a year off that, and they will be paid off February of 2023. So there's a lot of good aspects of being able to do the refunding.
If I could interject in there just to kind of bring our memory back to last year when we were going out for a bond issue, and a lot of the presentations that I did to the community, we talked about our debt structure, and we talked about how aggressively we manage debt in Rockwood, and we talked about a 10-year plan. So when Paul talks about shaving a year off, that's basically allowing us to achieve that goal where our levy, our debt levy would get to, is it 14 cents? I think would all be required to manage our debt. I think it was like the 14 cents.
Correct.
And but that shaves another year off of that. So that's really good news, and in more ways than one.
Being said, really appreciate the work and cooperation we had with Michelle and Piper Jaffray, along with Eric Creech and Gilmore and Bell. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes and some additional paperwork required to have the option of the parameters resolution, and they did a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that we had some good options available. Michelle, anything you want to add to the?
I'm just thrilled that we are here tonight with good news. It was honestly, the interest rates have come down a full 0.25% from 1 week ago.
What was it? This is easy for me because Paul's leadership does all the work on this. His only obligation is to report to me every day and tell me what it's doing. And I think on Monday we were talking, we were down to like 800-something thousand. Isn't that what you had quoted?
I think so.
Yeah. Late last week, we were down to in the $800,000 mark on savings, and we recovered all the way back to where we were a few weeks ago. And the market was stable today, so it seems like we got very lucky on the timing. But as Paul said, we had a plan in case it didn't work out, and thankfully, we're not going to have to incorporate that plan.
Pretty good news for our taxpayers.
If we wait a day, would it go up?
How's your crystal ball look? Yeah.
I don't want to go through any more of those days.
It's been a busy week. We don't know. I mean, the market today actually was unchanged, and so that means we kind of have run, at least it looks like this week, we've run to the lows of the interest rates that we've had. Next week could be.
Don't know what the news says tomorrow. Could affect it tomorrow, couldn't it?
Certainly, we thank you for all the hard work. Bond markets are sometimes counterintuitive and difficult for people to get their head around, so we're very happy that Paul's here and that he has your help doing that. This was a great outcome. So, all right, any other discussion on the item? The motion is to approve the bond issue purchases as described. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next bond item is the bond issue and purchases between $7,500 and $150,000. Need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts from $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
Moved.
Okay. Motion and second. Welcome, Chris.
Good evening. We have several items up for approval this evening as we continue to wrap up bond issue 15 and wrap up last summer, a busy summer, and transition into the upcoming summer of 18. The first item that we have under between $75,000 and $150,000 is a civil engineering design consultants. It is for the Marquette High School parking lot renovation that we're looking at doing this summer. This is the design fees and permitting for that project. Estimated project cost of about $1 million.
What are you getting ready to do at Marquette?
Excuse me?
What are you getting ready to change at Marquette?
We're not going to change the footprint of the parking lot, but we're going to renovate everything within its existing footprint.
Oh, okay.
Can we scroll on to the next one? There we go.
Is for purchase of AirWatch, which will allow us to manage mobile devices within our environment. With the new innovation spaces, we just purchased, Bob's area purchased a significant number of tablets, and we have found that tablets are sometimes tricky to manage. With this MDM, we're able to safely deploy apps to our students. They don't have access to the Play Store. They're pushed out. And the other benefit that I think is really significant is it has reduced time that teachers have to spend managing those tablets whenever there's an update or a new app needs to be installed. Bretta will configure it, send it out, it'll update in the night or when they turn them on in the morning, and then the kids just have to turn them on and use them. So they're also a little, it also provides us some additional security. We can lock those down for our students so that they don't have access to anything on the tablet but exactly what they're supposed to have, which are those apps that they're going to use.
So this was the long-awaited, what do you do about the bring your own device nightmare?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a good choice, a good software program, and the corporate world is very fast adopting this everywhere. So good choice on the program.
Thank you.
I
When you
think
say management system, you're not talking about the individual cell phones they bring? You're talking about our stuff that the district owns.
These are tablets that we have purchased as a district.
You're not trying to manage the individual. Okay.
We're not purchasing, or we're not managing the devices that they've purchased themselves.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Actually need to go back to the previous one. There were two in that file, and we talked about the first one. We missed the second one. Don't let her steal your thunder, because she'll do it.
So the second facilities related item is for Honer and Associates. These are architectural services. These are related to the innovative STEM spaces at the elementary schools. Actually, that is incorrect. Honer has two tonight. This one is for Marquette and Rockwood Summit High Schools. This is bond issue 15. If you're familiar with those two commons areas, there are tiered pits that actually go down to their stage areas at both of those campuses. Those were originally designed and built before the theaters were constructed at those locations. Since there's been theaters constructed, those areas now are kind of dead spaces and actually been, kind of tricky over the years for them to set up lunch periods and events. So this is a project that we've been looking at doing for a long time to fill in those spaces, level the area in the entire commons. It provides a little bit of growth area for their lunch setup, and just makes the overall facility safer. This is the the architectural design for that project.
Would you do that this summer?
Yes, this would be a summer 18 project.
How long does it take from start to finish?
We think that we could get this done easily in the 2-month period that we have for the summer months.
To bring in dirt, is that what you're going to do?
There's a couple different options we're looking at right now, but more than likely it's going to be rock.
Rock, okay.
It's not renovation of that space. It's just leveling the tiers. We
ultimately level with the stage then?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. The entire floor would be at the same elevation at the stage, and obviously while we're at it, we'll go ahead and replace the flooring in the entire commons area as part of this project.
The walkways on the side, are they the same? Yeah, they're the same as the stage already. They're just filling in the pit.
That's correct, and there's a handrail right now between the two elevations, which would be removed, so there'll be a big level area.
Wow, that will be different.
Stage mount, yeah.
Veterans will.
Yes.
All right, those were the two on the 2015 bond issues, and then we have a couple for the 2017. There we go.
So yes, this is the 2017 bond issue item for Honer and Associates. This is in relation to the STEM facilities that we are renovating and creating at the elementary level. Blevins, Fairway, and Wild Horse have identical floor plans, and we are trying to self-perform as much of this work as we can at the 19 locations. Unfortunately, at these three, the level of construction is going to require some architectural services. So this is the design services for those three locations. The work would be completed this upcoming summer.
They were all built about the same time, weren't they, those three?
They were spread out a little bit, a few years apart.
But they're the last, I don't know if that's the last three elementaries?
Fairway would be.
Fairway,
yes.
and then, I don't know about Blevins, Wild Horse. They're pretty, okay.
I think we have one more. There it is.
This is actually for 3 of our elementary innovation spaces. The majority of this is actually for seating. So when we started looking at seating options, we wanted to take advantage of the flexible seating that teachers are enjoying in their classrooms, but also how do we get seating that's not going to take up a ton of space that will work for a kindergartner up to a 5th grader. So this product that we chose, actually I gave the building several options, and these 3 chose the Oodle. Think of it as a series of hockey pucks that stack on top of each other, so you can easily adjust height. You can go flat bottom or kind of a rounded bottom, so if you have students who kind of need the wiggle a little bit, they can do that as well. So it comes in a variety of fun colors, and yes, they picked all the fun colors when they chose what they wanted to do. So that is what this is for here.
No through Ed Plus?
Yes, we get that through CI Select, and that's through got what they call it, the contracting through cooperative purchasing. Yes.
Questions or comments? All right, the motion is to approve the bond issue purchases that we just reviewed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you. And now we have, I think, one item that's above 150, so I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from William B. Ittner Incorporated for an increase in the existing contract related to Eureka High School locker and weight room additions and renovations project.
Move.
We have a motion and a second. All right, talk to us about this one.
Yeah, this is a request for increased authority to an existing contract, total amount of $4,000. This is the architectural firm that did the design for the Eureka High School locker room project. As you'll recall, when we started that project, we ran into a lot of unforeseen conditions that pushed our schedule back and basically extended the deadline or the finish date for this project. The reimbursable expenses are what we're concerned about with this increase. Obviously, the longer a project goes, the more mileage you're going to have to reimburse and more reimbursable expenses there's going to be associated with that project. We believe the $4,000 increase is generous as we're closing that project out as we speak, but wanted to come back and get the appropriate authority so we can close this out.
It was all done.
It is all done. The one thing that's hanging out there is the elevator repair that during the flood, the elevator shaft was and associated equipment was damaged. And we've been working with the insurance carrier and the contractor and the elevator company, and that was actually, done through the contract with ORF, the repair for that. So that's what's hanging out there.
All right, any other comments or questions on this one? All right, the motion is to approve the bond issue purchase as described. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That passes. Thank you, Chris. The next item is a discussion item for the agenda for the December 21st board meeting. That'll be the last one of the year, and it'll be the last day of school for this calendar year. So if we can look at that planning calendar real fast, hopefully we'll keep that relatively light that night. Yeah.
Yes, every year our district, all school districts have a legislative platform that basically just aligns to things that are obviously ideal for public education. We haven't done that for a few years. We still have had one. We've really just been kind of adopting what Education Plus puts out. So since we haven't done it in a while, and the fact that public school is kind of in the political spotlight right now, and I expect in the next legislative session it will be heavily talked about. And I talked with Kathy, and it just made some sense that we bring that forward, and even symbolically, just discuss it publicly and have the board approve it. There's nothing that you wouldn't expect on there. It's kind of overarching and somewhat generic, but still points to the things that we believe as a public school should be considered in our legislature.
Curriculum, is that 3 presentations, math, fine arts, and practical arts?
Yes.
Is that all the changes? Just those courses? Will there be some more math, maybe some more theater?
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, that's worried about. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder, in that regard, if it would be good to postpone the legislative platform until January so we could have more time? If we're trying to keep that meeting relatively short? Or is
Well,
it time sensitive?
We have our legislative combined meeting with Pattonville and Parkway that we do every year, and Pattonville's hosting this year. Did we host last year? We hosted last year. That's February, first week of February. We most definitely can. We're actually paying a little attention to that January meeting too, because we only have one meeting now, and it's getting pretty loaded up. I don't really think that this is a long topic, and I don't mean to belittle that I think there will be discussion, but again, they're overarching pieces, and I really was doing it a little more symbolically, just to make sure that platform is just not hanging out there in the background, that it's a little more in the forefront. I don't think it needs to be a long item that night.
I think that presenting the legislative platform is important in today's environment. I think that Rockwood has a unique reputation, and you've taken advantage of that, thankfully. And at the state level, to present where we stand on issues, I don't think any of those issues would be shocking to anybody in here. If that's relatively close to being completed now, if we could send that out to the board a week ahead of that meeting, that would help everybody to read through it and see where they are. Like I said, I don't think any of if you use the old language, none of the platforms or none of the planks in that platform is going to shock anybody. But putting it forth formally as saying this is what we as a school district believe the right legislative path is an important thing to do at the state legislature, especially when so many of them are fairly new.
It's still very consistent with the Ed Plus platform. So, but we, I think the last draft is about good to go. Kathy and I just haven't hooked back up on it. And I wanted to send a copy to Paul as well. So we're really close. So we'll definitely get it out in advance.
Great chance to review it, and that way that'll kind of shorten that night, how long we're
absolutely
reading it.
I won't be here for that meeting, so I would love to see that.
Okay.
Yep.
Otherwise, the items that are there are, we've got a few curriculum items, the first reading on trying to read it up there, probably should read it down here, on metals, first reading?
It's carried over from the line before.
Oh, there you go. Okay, thank you. And then some bond issues again. So other than the curriculum presentations, which will be exceedingly short, we'll have a not too bad an agenda that evening. So. Any other discussions on the agenda for the next meeting? All right, we'll move on to the future agenda presentations. You do have, and they do this every year, and it's a very helpful thing, items that come up in the first few months, especially people who are running for board election next year, and the sign-ups start Tuesday. You have this list, and thank you, Kathy, for putting this together. The list of items that are coming up in all the schools and when they are, and an opportunity to attend them. Even if you're not running for the board, it's a great idea to attend as many of those as you can. It's kind of a slow time of year socially, so there's an opportunity to get into the schools and kind of see what's going on. So I encourage all the board members to take as much advantage of that as you can. Are there any other topics any board member would like to bring up tonight? In that case, we will adjourn. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis is
Two high school.
It's one other high school. It's one high school. I can't remember the second one, but I know it's one high school.
Their biggest bond issue.
Yeah.